Hello everyone, Miss Carrie here. For today's project, I'll be featuring a few items from Trinity Stamps. I'm going to be using the Simply Sentimental Sympathy Stamp and die sets. There is a stamp collection with different fonts and smaller sentiments. The dies have larger words that have similar fonts, and there are some great shadow layers with each of these. I'm also going to be bringing in the Emergency Card Making Essentials die set. This is one of my go-to tools because it has all of these great basic shapes we card makers constantly reach for. On today's project, we're going to be using some of these circular dies in some new ways. As I create today's project, I'll bring in a few additional supplies. As always, I encourage you to use what you have in your collection, but if you would like a list of the items I'm using, one has been provided for you in the description below, along with my affiliate link to the Trinity Stamps shop. Let's go ahead and get started with the project. On my glass board, I have everything pre-cut for this A2 size card making project. You'll see that I use the 2-piece diagonal panel die to create a fun background with a stripe and a butterfly print. If your pattern is directional like mine was, you can rotate the die or paper to get the look you want. The stripes on this pattern paper were horizontal, so I rotated my die to make them vertical. It was really easy to do. For the background, I have an A2 size piece of paper in a softer blue. I have also cut out 2 white cardstock scallop borders. I cut out a scallop circle in a soft blue polka dot and a circle from pink gingham. I also have a few leaves here. I have the word sympathy that I cut from a deep blue cardstock and the shadow layer from vellum. So let's go ahead and talk about how you can make those floral pieces. So we're going to be making some applique style flowers. I used 2 nested circle dies to create some larger pattern paper layers. For the leaves, I also used a circle die. Let me show you how to do that. I'm going to take a mid-size circle die and cut out the shape from my pattern paper. Now I'm going to shift that die slightly over to one side of the circle shape. You can make this as thin or as wide as you like. I'm going to tape it in place with repositionable tape, then run it through the machine again. The result is a simple curved leaf shape. No extra dies are needed. Now you can repeat this for as many leaves as you like. I'm going to go ahead and finish cutting out the rest of my leaves and my sentiment, and then I'm going to show you how to add some stitching to these floral elements. One of the more difficult parts about stitching is creating the even templates. I'm going to show you how to do this with a circle die. I have selected one that's a size smaller to use as my template. I'm going to flip over my pattern paper to the back and trace the outside of the die. I'm going to place a piece of craft foam underneath and use the Trinity Stamps pickup tool to evenly poke holes around that pencil line. On the leaves, I'm just going to do a straight stitch line down the center. So I'm going to show you how to do a simple back stitch on the leaf. This is going to go a little bit faster, but the stitch is going to be exactly the same around the circle. I'm going to start in the second hole from the end, and I'm going to pull my thread through. I'm going to leave about a 1/2 inch on the back. I don't like to add knots at the end of the thread when I'm working with paper. They often leave a little bump on the back of the paper. So I'm just going to tape the tail down with some clear tape. I'm going to stitch backwards to the previous hole. I'm going to pull the thread tight, then I'm going to move forward to the next open hole. I'm going to repeat this, stitching back 1, then forward again. You can use embroidery thread or plain white thread for this, whatever matches your project. To finish, you're going to loop your thread under itself twice, then secure the end with tape. Before I place everything on the card base, I want to stamp the sentiment inside. I'm using a clear stamp from the Simply Sentimental Sympathy set that says, "During this difficult time." All right, let's bring everything together. I'm going to start by placing the blue paper onto my card base. I do have a hole cut there in the center. I used this to cut out the flower piece. This is just a great budget-friendly way to save on cardstock. I want to add my scallop border over the seam where the 2 panels meet. I am going to have to trim this down because it's a bit too long. I'm going to use a little bit of double-sided tape to adhere these 2 diagonal pieces together. Then I'm going to remove the backing and add my scallop border over the seam where the 2 panels meet. I'm going to layer the second one over the top, shifting it slightly, and then I'm going to trim off the excess. You can also add ribbon, stitching, or twine here for more texture. I'm going to place the flower in the top left. I'm going to place the larger circle down first, and then I'm going to set the smaller circle over the top, shifting it slightly. I'm going to tuck the stitched leaves just behind the flower for a nice dimensional look. For the sentiment, I'm using this really thin sympathy script. Sometimes it's difficult to add glue to the back of thin script like this without causing a bit of a mess. I often place glue on the back of my hand, and then I tap the die cut over the glue to add just a light coating. You can also use your finger or a sponge dauber. I'm going to carefully layer this over the vellum shadow. I'm going to add a few dots of glue to the back of the vellum, and then I'm going to adhere it in place. To complete the applique look, I'm going to add a button to the flower with a glue dot. And then I'm going to top it with a twine bow. And that's it. Now the card is complete. This design is super versatile. Just swap out the sentiment and colors for birthdays, thank yous, or even seasonal cards. If this video inspired you, go ahead and leave a comment below. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe so you don't miss out on the next tutorial. Don't forget to join the Trinity Stamps Facebook group for even more card making ideas and inspiration from the design team. I hope you have a wonderful week, and I can't wait to see what you create.